Have you ever felt invisible, like your quiet strength went unnoticed while the world applauded the loud? What if I told you that your stillness has been your secret weapon and heaven has been watching every silent act of faith you made? This is your moment, chosen one. In this message from Spiritual Journals, we're diving into a powerful revelation, a spiritual awakening that will show you how your silence was never weakness, it was wisdom in disguise. You're not just being seen, you're being sent. And by the end of this video, you'll understand how God uses the quiet ones to shift nations, to heal hearts, and to carry light where chaos once ruled. This is more than a Christian motivational message. It's a journey of faith and healing that promises to unlock peace in your soul and clarity in your calling. You've waited long enough, and now heaven is ready to reveal why you were hidden. Stay until the end, because what's coming next will touch the deepest part of your spirit and remind you that your story still matters. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to Spiritual Journals, turn on your notifications, and join this growing family of faith so together we can spread God's word to the world. Thank you for being here. Your presence isn't accidental, it's prophetic. Today your awakening begins.
Let's be honest for a moment, chosen one. We live in a world that celebrates the loudest voices, the fastest moves, the brightest lights. Everywhere you turn, there's noise, constant chatter, endless opinions, competition for attention. Yet, in the midst of all this noise, there you are, quiet, observant, reflective. The world may look at your stillness and mislabel it as hesitation, but heaven knows it as preparation. Silence is not your weakness, it's your sanctuary. You are not falling behind, you are being refined. Because when the world rushes, God often whispers. When others fight for visibility, God hides his treasures in plain sight. You, chosen one, are one of those treasures. You aren't built to perform for applause. You were designed to perceive divine purpose, to carry depth in a shallow generation. The quiet ones walk through life collecting truths others overlook, listening to the spaces between words, discerning what lies beyond the surface. While the world sees the visible, you hear the invisible, the heartbeat of heaven pulsing through every moment. That's not coincidence, that's calling. You've been equipped with sensitivity not as a burden, but as a blessing, because God trusts the gentle with his greatest revelations. Remember, Elijah didn't find God in the earthquake or the fire, but in the still, small voice. That stillness wasn't emptiness, it was intimacy. The same God who spoke to Elijah in silence is speaking to you there too. The world may say you're quiet, but heaven calls it communion. Your stillness is where your divine purpose is shaped. Every quiet moment you've spent praying when no one noticed, every tear you cried in secret, every whisper of surrender when you felt unseen, those were holy moments. God was sculpting something sacred within you. You may not have realized it, but silence is the soil where destiny takes root. It's in stillness that God downloads blueprints for the future, sketches visions that can't be birthed in chaos, and writes promises meant only for your eyes until the appointed time. You see, divine purpose doesn't grow in noise. It grows in nurture. Look at Jesus. Before he performed miracles, he spent years in quiet preparation. Before he preached to thousands, he withdrew to the wilderness. Before the resurrection, there was the silence of the tomb. Every powerful move of God is preceded by a quiet one. Don't despise the stillness. It's proof that heaven is working. You might feel like nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, roots are deepening. You are becoming unshakable. You're learning to hear what others miss. You're developing the spiritual muscles that will carry the weight of what's coming. The quiet season isn't punishment, it's protection. God hid you so no one could corrupt what he was cultivating in you. The stillness you've endured wasn't the absence of movement, it was the presence of molding. You were never forgotten, you were being fortified. Because when the world rushes ahead, God's chosen move with divine timing. Every pause has purpose. Every delay carries direction. And when he finally brings you forward, you'll realize that what felt like waiting was actually alignment. Think of David tending sheep while others were fighting for status. He wasn't wasting time in the field, he was learning the rhythm of heaven, the language of solitude, the courage to fight lions in private before facing giants in public. That's what God is doing in you, teaching you to conquer quietly so you can lead loudly when the time comes. There's a holiness to your silence, a sacredness to your stillness. You've been sitting with thoughts too heavy to explain, dreams too divine to describe. And while others mistook your silence for weakness, it was actually your wisdom growing roots. God was forming in you the kind of insight that doesn't need validation because it's already verified by His Spirit. Your divine purpose has always been there, humming beneath the noise, waiting for the moment heaven says, now. And that moment is near. Every hidden seed must one day push through the soil. Every whisper from God eventually becomes a roar in the earth. Your stillness is about to speak. The same people who overlooked you will wonder how you rose so quickly, but you'll know it wasn't sudden. It was sacred timing. You've been maturing in the shadows, protected from premature exposure. God didn't hide you to hurt you. He hid you to help you grow without pressure. Because what's real doesn't need to be rushed. The purpose within you is not fragile, it's fierce. And soon, what was quiet will become undeniable. The book of Isaiah says, "In quietness and confidence shall be your strength." There was divine power in restraint, divine favor in waiting, divine wisdom in withholding words until God says speak. You've been learning that silence is not the absence of sound, it's the fullness of surrender. It's the moment when you stop striving and start trusting. The quiet ones are not empty, they are overflowing with unseen fire. You've carried prayers like seeds, and heaven has been watering them in private. The world may have ignored your process, but God has documented every moment. He's watched your faith grow in the shadows, your patience mature in pain, your heart expand in humility. And now, beloved, your quiet season is reaching its climax. Heaven is leaning in to crown what you carried in silence. The stillness that once made you question your value will soon reveal your victory. Every quiet prayer is about to echo with power. Every moment of waiting is about to turn into movement. Every hidden tear is about to shine as evidence of divine purpose fulfilled. You are stepping out not as someone who was overlooked, but as someone who was preserved for glory. So lift your head, chosen one. Your silence has spoken louder than you know. What was once concealed is now ready to be crowned, and the world will finally see what heaven has been celebrating all along.
You've felt it, haven't you? That ache that lingers in your chest when people misunderstand who you are and what you carry. The loneliness that comes from being unseen while others are celebrated. The weight of being labeled too quiet, too deep, too different. But chosen one, hear this with your spirit. Being misunderstood is not a curse, it's a calling. It's the sacred space where God hides those who are being prepared to lead. It's the place where He refines your heart so that when you finally step into the light, you shine with authenticity, not approval. The cost of being misunderstood is high, but the reward of finding purpose through it is holy. You were never meant to be understood by everyone, because what God placed in you was never meant to be common. You were created to carry revelation that won't make sense until it's time. Think of Joseph. His brothers couldn't understand his dreams, so they threw him into a pit. They mocked what they couldn't interpret, but what they didn't know was that the pit was the first step toward the palace. Every misunderstanding you've endured has been positioning you for something greater. The pain you felt when no one believed in your vision was the pressure that shaped your discernment. The moments when you sat alone, feeling invisible, were the moments when heaven leaned in closest. You weren't forgotten, you were being formed. God saw the nights when your mind raced with questions. Why don't they see my heart? Why can't they recognize my sincerity? And yet through those tears, he whispered, "They don't see you because I'm still revealing you. You're not late, you're hidden for a reason." Sometimes, being misunderstood is the divine disguise of protection. God doesn't hide you to punish you, he hides you to preserve you. He knows the power you carry, and he won't let the wrong audience mishandle your purpose before it's ready to be revealed. In the Bible, Jesus himself faced the cost of being misunderstood. The very people he came to save called him a fraud, a rebel, a blasphemer, yet he never explained himself to those determined not to understand. He stayed focused on his Father's will. That's what finding purpose looks like. It's not about convincing people of your value. It's about aligning with God's voice, even when others misread your silence. The truth is, chosen one, your silence has been your sanctuary. When others were chasing noise, you were chasing clarity. When they were demanding attention, you were developing understanding. And that's why your journey looks different. You've been walking a narrow road, one marked by solitude and sacred stretching. You've been walking with heaven's hand upon your shoulder, learning lessons that can't be taught in crowds. It's painful, yes, but necessary. Because before you can lead others, God must teach you how to walk with him alone. And that kind of intimacy often requires isolation. There's a beauty in being misunderstood. It forces you to seek validation from the only place that matters, the heart of God. Every time someone misjudged your motives, every time you were left out, every time you were told you weren't enough, heaven was rewriting that pain into purpose. The rejection you faced was redirection toward destiny. The misunderstanding you endured was molding your mind to think higher, to see beyond what others can see. You've been learning that purpose isn't found in being accepted. It's found in being aligned. It's found in those moments when you finally realize that the crowd's approval can't compare to the peace of God's confirmation. That's the turning point, when the ache begins to turn into awakening. You begin to understand that your story isn't delayed, it's being detailed. You start to see that every misunderstanding was an invitation to deeper faith. The Bible tells us in Proverbs that many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Even when people didn't understand your plans, God was guiding your purpose. He was weaving your pain into something powerful, something eternal. The quiet ones always carry something others can't comprehend at first. Noah looked foolish building an ark before the rain. David looked too small to fight a giant. Esther looked powerless in a palace built by fear. But every one of them was misunderstood before they were revealed. That's how God writes stories that defy logic. He takes the ones the world overlooks and turns them into vessels of transformation. So if you feel unseen right now, remember this: invisibility is not insignificance, it's intimacy. It's the place where you and God are building something sacred together. Every tear you've cried in secret has been seen by Him. Every sigh has been heard. Every doubt you've carried has been answered in advance. And one day you'll look back and realize that the loneliness wasn't punishment, it was training. You were learning how to hear His voice above the noise of misunderstanding. You were learning how to stand firm in your identity when others questioned your motives. You were learning that purpose isn't found in being accepted. It's found in being aligned. It's found in those moments when you finally realize that the crowd's approval can't compare to the peace of God's confirmation. That's the turning point, when the ache begins to turn into awakening.
You begin to understand that your story isn't delayed, it's being detailed. You start to see that every misunderstanding was an invitation to deeper faith. The Bible tells us in Proverbs that many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Even when people didn't understand your plans, God was guiding your purpose. He was weaving your pain into something powerful, something eternal. The quiet ones always carry something others can't comprehend at first. Noah looked foolish building an ark before the rain. David looked too small to fight a giant. Esther looked powerless in a palace built by fear. But every one of them was misunderstood before they were revealed. That's how God writes stories that defy logic. He takes the ones the world overlooks and turns them into vessels of transformation. So if you feel unseen right now, remember this: invisibility is not insignificance, it's intimacy. It's the place where you and God are building something sacred together. Every tear you've cried in secret has been seen by Him. Every sigh has been heard. Every doubt you've carried has been answered in advance. And one day you'll look back and realize that the loneliness wasn't punishment, it was training. You were learning how to hear His voice above the noise of misunderstanding. You were learning how to stand firm in your identity when others questioned your motives. You were learning that purpose isn't found in being accepted. It's found in being aligned. It's found in those moments when you finally realize that the crowd's approval can't compare to the peace of God's confirmation. That's the turning point, when the ache begins to turn into awakening. You begin to understand that your story isn't delayed, it's being detailed. You start to see that every misunderstanding was an invitation to deeper faith. The Bible tells us in Proverbs that many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Even when people didn't understand your plans, God was guiding your purpose. He was weaving your pain into something powerful, something eternal. The quiet ones always carry something others can't comprehend at first. Noah looked foolish building an ark before the rain. David looked too small to fight a giant. Esther looked powerless in a palace built by fear. But every one of them was misunderstood before they were revealed. That's how God writes stories that defy logic. He takes the ones the world overlooks and turns them into vessels of transformation. So if you feel unseen right now, remember this: invisibility is not insignificance, it's intimacy. It's the place where you and God are building something sacred together. Every tear you've cried in secret has been seen by Him. Every sigh has been heard. Every doubt you've carried has been answered in advance. And one day you'll look back and realize that the loneliness wasn't punishment, it was training. You were learning how to hear His voice above the noise of misunderstanding. You were learning how to stand firm in your identity when others questioned your motives. You were learning that purpose isn't found in being accepted. It's found in being aligned. It's found in those moments when you finally realize that the crowd's approval can't compare to the peace of God's confirmation. That's the turning point, when the ache begins to turn into awakening. You begin to understand that your story isn't delayed, it's being detailed. You start to see that every misunderstanding was an invitation to deeper faith.
The Bible tells us in Proverbs that many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Even when people didn't understand your plans, God was guiding your purpose. He was weaving your pain into something powerful, something eternal. The quiet ones always carry something others can't comprehend at first. Noah looked foolish building an ark before the rain. David looked too small to fight a giant.
Esther looked powerless in a palace built by fear. But every one of them was misunderstood before they were revealed. That's how God writes stories that defy logic. He takes the ones the world overlooks and turns them into vessels of transformation. So if you feel unseen right now, remember this. Invisibility is not insignificance, it's intimacy. It's the place where you and God are building something sacred together. Every tear you've cried in secret has been seen by Him. Every sigh has been heard. Every doubt you've carried has been answered in advance. And one day, you look back and realize that the loneliness wasn't punishment, it was training. You were learning how to hear His voice above the noise of misunderstanding. You were learning how to stand firm in your identity when others questioned your motives. You were learning that purpose doesn't need proof. It reveals itself through endurance. The cost of being misunderstood may leave scars, but those scars are sacred. They are proof that you've been in the presence of transformation. They remind you that you can be broken and still be chosen.
They whisper that even when no one understood your journey, God did. He never lost track of your steps. He never stopped working behind the scenes. And when His timing unfolds, those who once overlooked you will stand amazed at what He's done through you. Because that's how divine reversals work. God takes what was ignored and turns it into inspiration. He takes what was mocked and makes it miraculous. He takes what was misunderstood and makes it magnificent. You are finding purpose, not despite the misunderstanding, but because of it. Every misjudged moment has been preparing you to carry compassion for others who will one day walk the same road. You'll speak peace to the misunderstood because you know what it feels like. You'll guide the overlooked because you remember the sting. And that's how your purpose becomes ministry. It's not born out of perfection. It's born out of pain, redeemed by grace. So hold your head high, beloved. The misunderstanding was never your end. It was your introduction. The loneliness was never empty. It was loaded with divine instruction. You are walking into a season where what once hurt will now heal others. And when they ask how you kept going, you'll smile and say, I stopped chasing understanding and started finding purpose. That's the beauty of the misunderstood. Their story always ends in revelation.
There's a shift coming, chosen one, a sacred turning of the page where everything that has been hidden will begin to shine. It's not just another moment, it's a divine unveiling, the kind that shakes the ground and silences doubt. This is your breakthrough message, a prophetic reminder that God has seen every quiet act of faith, every hidden tear, every moment you chose peace over proving your worth. The world has spent years measuring greatness by how loud someone can shout, but heaven has always measured it by how deeply someone can see. God is about to reward vision over volume. Those who have walked softly, prayed privately, and carried heavy wisdom in silence are about to rise publicly. The tables are turning, and this time it's not luck, it's divine order. You've spent so long wondering if anyone saw the truth inside you, but heaven never missed a moment. When no one clapped for your courage, angels took note. When others mocked your stillness, God called it strategy. You've been learning to move without noise, to grow without recognition, and that training is now your preparation for elevation. The breakthrough message for your soul today is this: heaven is getting ready to reveal you, not because you fought for attention, but because you stayed faithful when no one was watching. This revelation won't require a stage, a spotlight, or approval from anyone who overlooked you. It will come quietly, like dawn breaking after a long night, undeniable and unstoppable. There's a reckoning taking place in the Spirit, a divine exchange where truth will confront everything false. God is exposing what was hidden and revealing what was real all along. The people who misread your motives will see your heart. Those who whispered against you will witness your rise. But you won't need to say a word. Your fruit will do the talking. Your peace will be your proof. Your calm will be your crown. This is what it means when God says, "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness isn't weakness, it's confidence in divine timing. The same people who called you passive will soon call you powerful, because the truth doesn't need permission to speak, it just needs the right moment to stand. Every injustice, every misunderstanding, every false word spoken against you is being reversed by truth itself. This is your vindication season, but not the kind that requires revenge. God's justice never comes from bitterness, it comes from revelation. When Joseph stood before his brothers in Egypt, he didn't remind them of the pit or the betrayal. He said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." That was a breakthrough message for every soul that's ever been wrongly judged. What they tried to bury became the very thing that elevated him. The same will be true for you. The lies told about you will become ladders to your next level. The silence that once felt like exile will now sound like peace. The very rooms that ignored your voice will echo with your name. But here's the beauty. You won't need to boast. You'll simply bloom. God's truth doesn't argue, it manifests. When the Lord begins to uncover the truth about who you are, it won't just validate you, it will free you. You'll start to understand why certain doors were closed, why some friendships ended, why isolation was necessary. Heaven was protecting your purpose from premature exposure. Because truth has its own rhythm, and breakthrough always arrives in God's tempo. Every misunderstanding that once weighed you down is about to turn into evidence of divine favor. The truth that's emerging isn't small, it's monumental. It's not just about you, it's about every person connected to your obedience. When God lifts you, He doesn't just bless one life, He sends ripples through generations, and those ripples begin with revelation. The truth about you was never lost, it was preserved. Even when people thought they had defined your story, heaven had already written another ending. And now, that ending is being rewritten into glory. This breakthrough message is your reminder that God never leaves integrity unrewarded. You may have been silent, but you were never sidelined. You may have been forgotten by people, but you were always front and center in God's plan. Think about Jesus standing before Pilate, falsely accused, misunderstood by the very ones he came to save. He didn't argue, he didn't beg. He stood in truth, knowing that his purpose didn't need defending. It just needed to be fulfilled. That's where you are now. You don't need to defend your name. You don't need to chase validation. You are walking into a season where God Himself will be your voice. The truth will do what truth always does. It will rise. The winds may blow and opinions may shift, but nothing can bury what heaven has chosen to reveal. There's power in your patience, strength in your restraint, and wisdom in your waiting. God is about to make public what He confirmed in private. Every quiet thinker, every deep feeler, every underestimated vessel, you are stepping into divine recognition, not because you demanded it, but because you stayed faithful when no one was watching. This hour is where the humble are being lifted. This is the time where the unseen are being crowned. You are the living proof that staying true to your calling, even when no one applauds, leads to an outcome far greater than applause. It leads to anointing. This breakthrough message isn't just for you, it's for every person who has ever felt invisible while doing everything right. It's heaven's way of saying, I see you, I've always seen you. So lift your head, beloved. You don't need to search for closure. The truth is your closure. You don't need to chase after clarity. The revelation is already unfolding.
What God is doing in you is not quiet anymore. It's becoming a sound, a vibration, a move that will ripple through your life and every life connected to yours. This reckoning is not to shame anyone, it's to set everything in divine order. The truth that once made you weep will soon make you worship. The pain that once made you question your worth will soon prove your calling. You were walking into a season where what was hidden by humility will be revealed through honor. You don't have to push it, you don't have to prove it. Just stay aligned, stay grateful, stay anchored in peace. The truth is your ally, and heaven is your witness. This is not just a moment of recognition, it's a moment of realization. You are stepping into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. So when the truth finally speaks, let it speak through your calm. Let it echo through your gratitude. Let it confirm what God has been whispering all along. You were never overlooked. You were being prepared for revelation. And now, Chosen One, that revelation has arrived.
You see, Chosen One, the hand of God moves most powerfully in the quiet. The world may chase noise, performance, and recognition, but heaven works through stillness. This is the mystery the world can't understand, the way God wraps his biggest miracles in silence. The quiet ones are not just thinkers, they are carriers of divine timing. The world may underestimate you, but heaven knows the weight of what you carry. Moses stuttered, yet he was chosen to speak for a generation. Mary was young and unknown, yet she carried the Savior of the world in her womb. Even Jesus, before every miracle, withdrew to the mountain or the garden, not to hide, but to align. That's the pattern of heaven. Stillness before power, silence before breakthrough, surrender before revelation. This isn't just a pause in your story. It's a holy preparation. God's hand is writing chapters no one else can see yet. And if you could feel the movement in the Spirit right now, you'd realize that every quiet moment, every hidden prayer, every tear you thought went unnoticed has been shaping your future. This is your Christian motivational speech from heaven itself. Stillness is not stagnation, it's strategy. When you sit in silence with God, you're not wasting time, you're aligning with eternity. The louder the world becomes, the more powerful your peace will be. The more chaotic the environment, the clearer your discernment will grow. God hides his greatest works behind what seems ordinary, because that's how he protects what's extraordinary. You may think nothing is happening, but the hand of God is crafting details you'll only understand later. Remember, the seed doesn't grow while you watch it. It grows in darkness, under pressure, in silence. That's you right now, hidden but alive, buried but becoming, quiet but powerful. God's hand is molding you into a vessel that can carry glory without breaking under its weight. You've been asking for answers, and heaven has been answering through stillness. When you felt forgotten, he was forming you. When you thought your prayers were bouncing off the ceiling, they were being stored in heaven's treasury, gaining value in unseen ways. Every whispered word, every sigh of exhaustion, every "God, I don't know how much longer I can do this," has been recorded, remembered, and multiplied. The silence you've endured was never the absence of his hand, it was the assurance of his precision. He's been aligning circumstances, preparing people, and positioning you for an unveiling that could only happen when your spirit learned to rest. God's silence is never neglect, it's orchestration. He moves in ways too divine to be rushed, because timing is his masterpiece. What feels delayed is actually being delivered with perfect accuracy. The story of your life isn't stalled, it's being written with divine rhythm. Think about Jesus asleep in the boat during the storm. His silence wasn't indifference, it was instruction. He was showing his disciples that peace is power, that storms don't sink faith, and that sometimes the quiet confidence of God's presence is louder than any roar of fear. That same calm is being released over you now. You're learning to trust His hand even when you can't trace it. You're learning that faith doesn't always shout, it sometimes just breathes. And in that breath, miracles begin. Right now, heaven is lifting burdens you've carried for far too long. The weight of being misunderstood is being replaced with the reward of being revealed. The pain that made you question your purpose will soon become the proof that you were chosen for something greater. The same silence that made you cry yourself to sleep is the silence that's producing your strength. God's hand is moving quietly but powerfully, undoing what the enemy thought was permanent. He's untangling confusion, rewriting timelines, and aligning divine appointments that will show up suddenly but have been forming for years. You may not feel it, but you're on the edge of a spiritual turning point. The next breath you take could shift your entire story. The next dawn could bring the very opportunity that makes sense of every lonely night. God has been weaving your waiting into wonder. Every unanswered prayer was never ignored. It was being answered differently, deeply, and perfectly. The silence wasn't His absence. It was His protection from lesser things. There are some blessings that can't arrive until you stop running and start resting. There are some doors that only open when your heart learns to be still. The hand of God is moving for you now, and it's moving quietly because what He's preparing doesn't need an announcement. It needs alignment. You are being positioned for a divine encounter, a moment where everything that once felt random will begin to make sense. The pattern is clear throughout Scripture. Moses heard God's voice in the quiet of the desert. Elijah heard Him not in the earthquake or the fire, but in the gentle whisper. And even Jesus, before healing the blind or raising the dead, often looked up and prayed in silence. The power didn't come from the noise, it came from the knowing. The same knowing is rising in you now. The Holy Spirit is reminding you that peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of God in the middle of them. You don't have to force this breakthrough. It's already forming. You don't have to explain this process. It's already holy. You are walking through sacred ground where silence is no longer something to fear, but something to embrace. The quiet is your confirmation that heaven is working. When everything goes still, that's when God is closest. The silence is not empty. It's full of instruction, full of guidance, full of grace. And when the silence breaks, it won't be with a whisper, it will be with a wave. Suddenly, doors will open that never were supposed to close. Suddenly, favor will flow in places you thought were dry. Suddenly, peace will fill the spaces that used to ache. But until then, stay still. Keep your faith soft and your hope steady. Let this Christian motivational speech echo in your spirit. The silence is not punishment. It's the sound of preparation. The hand of God is not still, it's strategic. He's painting a masterpiece in strokes too delicate for you to see yet, but soon it will be clear. So breathe, chosen one. Rest in the divine rhythm. The God who worked miracles in whispers is still doing it now. And the moment you surrender to His stillness, you'll see that the silence was never quiet all along. It was filled with the heartbeat of heaven, working all things together for your good.
Chosen one, this moment you're standing in is not random. It's the unfolding of something sacred, something ancient, something heaven has been weaving through generations. This isn't just about being seen, it's about being sent. You are the embodiment of a divine return, the living proof that God finishes what He starts. For years, faith has been carried quietly by those who prayed in secret, who believed in silence, who stood firm even when no one saw their strength. You are the continuation of their prayers. The same light that guided them through the wilderness is now rising within you. God is merging history and prophecy through your life, aligning promises made long before your birth with the purpose you now carry. This is more than destiny. It's a spiritual awakening. It's that moment when what was sleeping in your spirit begins to stir again, when what was hidden under pain begins to breathe again. You're not just stepping into purpose, you're becoming the bridge between what was promised and what's being performed. You are the fulfillment of faith that has endured the test of time. For so long you've wondered why your path seemed slower, quieter, why your growth felt hidden. But heaven hides what it values most. God has been cultivating you, shaping you in the silence, preparing you to carry something that can't be rushed, something that can only emerge through surrender. And now the silence that once felt like waiting is turning into revelation. The stillness that once felt empty is becoming sound. This is the sound of your awakening. It's the soft hum of heaven announcing that your time has come. The spiritual awakening happening in you is not a one-time event. It's the dawning of divine awareness, the recognition that every delay was design, every loss was lesson, every unanswered prayer was working for your alignment. You've been growing roots while others were growing branches, and now those roots are ready to sustain the weight of the blessings about to come. You've reached the point where divine timing meets human readiness, where your surrender has created space for God's glory to flow freely. The breakthrough won't come with chaos, it will come with clarity. God is not sending confusion into your life, He's sending confirmation. The peace that's coming will not make sense to the natural mind, but it will flood your spirit with knowing. You'll begin to see that what you called delay was really divine synchronization. You'll begin to understand that while you were waiting, heaven was arranging. While you were resting, angels were positioning. While you were praying, God was perfecting every detail. This is the season where what was invisible becomes visible, where what was promised becomes personal. The shift will feel sudden, but it will be steady. The doors that open will feel effortless, but they will be eternal. Financial blessings will flow in ways that redeem every year of struggle. Ideas that once felt scattered will bloom into clarity. The freedom you've been longing for will finally feel tangible. And through it all, you will know it wasn't luck, it was the hand of God. That's how you'll recognize it. Because what God ordains always comes wrapped in peace, not panic. The same peace that guarded Daniel in the lion's den, that strengthened Esther before the king, that carried Mary through the uncertainty of her call. That peace is resting on you now. It's the sign that your spiritual awakening has taken root. You are awakening to who you truly are, a vessel of light, a reflection of divine purpose, a voice that carries the sound of redemption. You are not returning to what you were, you are rising into what you are always meant to be. This is the divine return, the moment when everything the enemy tried to silence begins to sing again, when the dreams that felt buried start breathing again, when the faith that once flickered begins to blaze. You are walking in the footsteps of those who trusted God beyond their own understanding. Abraham left everything familiar because he believed in a promise he couldn't yet see. Ruth followed faith into a new future and found her name written in redemption's story. Every story of restoration begins with awakening, an inner shift where you finally recognize that God never left, He was leading all along. The silence was never punishment, it was the classroom of your spirit. It's where you learn to depend on His voice more than your emotions, His plan more than your pain. Now that your heart has been trained in stillness, you can carry the sound of heaven with authority. You've been through the refining, you've been through the breaking, you've been through the waiting. And now, beloved, you are entering the revealing. This is not just a new chapter, it's a new book, a rewritten story dripping with grace. The very things that once made you doubt will become the very evidence of God's glory. The moments that made you feel small will become the places where His presence shines brightest. You're not just living a story, you're living prophecy. You are proof that God redeems time, restores purpose, and resurrects dreams. And as this spiritual awakening deepens, you'll begin to see yourself through heaven's lens. You'll realize you were never disqualified, just delayed for refinement. You'll see that every closed door was divine redirection, every detour was protection. Nothing has been wasted, not one tear, not one prayer, not one waiting season. Every piece has purpose, and it's all converging now. The divine return is not just about your external success, it's about your internal resurrection. God is calling your spirit to rise, your confidence to return, your hope to expand. And as you step forward, you won't just represent yourself, you'll represent the generations before you that never stopped believing. You'll carry their faith, their fire, their fulfillment. This spiritual awakening is multi-generational. It's the continuation of every yes spoken in obedience, every seed sown in hope. You are part of heaven's unfolding story. So stay here a little longer, chosen one. Breathe in this moment. The air you feel around you is shifting because heaven is near. The silence that shaped you is now giving way to sound. The unseen is becoming seen. The divine return is complete. You are not who you were when this started. You are who God always knew you would become. And as you rise, remember, this spiritual awakening isn't just for you, it's for the world that needs your light.
Chosen ones, what a sacred moment this has been. You've just walked through a reminder that your quiet wasn't a flaw, it was formation. Every season of silence was shaping the strength you now carry. This is your time of unveiling, the moment when what was hidden in humility begins to shine through divine purpose. You are no longer overlooked. You are ordained to stand where your voice once trembled. If this message stirred something deep inside you, take a breath and type in the comments, "I rise from silence." That simple act is your declaration that the waiting is over and your season of personal growth has begun. You've been faithful through the quiet, and heaven has seen every prayer you whispered. Now it's time to move forward with courage, with clarity, and with confidence that what God started in you will not return empty. If this word touched your heart, like this video as a sign of agreement and gratitude for what's unfolding in your spirit. And before you go, subscribe to Spiritual Journals and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of inspiration designed to strengthen your faith and fuel your journey toward purpose. May your days overflow with peace that surpasses understanding, with love that heals every wound, and with wisdom that turns your silence into song. I'm deeply thankful for your presence here today. You are seen, you are called, and you are covered. May God bless you, chosen one, as you rise from silence into significance.